In this video, we're going to cover the controls presented in the sections called top navigation and left navigation. Let me go ahead and open top navigation. The first section in top navigation is called placement. We have the ability in this section to change the location of where the top navigation bar is placed on the page. Let me scroll up the page just slightly. And now I'm going to change the top navigation placement by clicking on Position Link Above Header. And that moves it all the way to the top. If you don't want to have any kind of a top navigation, you can simply click Hide. I think I'm going to go ahead and move mine back to the top above the header for the rest of this demonstration. In the next section, under top navigation, we have the link adjustments. So you have the ability to change the alignment. Currently it was set to justify, and I'm going to move now to left. Show you what that looks like. Right, as you may expect, to the right. And of course center. I'm going to use justify because I like how it spreads the links out. Margin has to do with the left-hand navigation and the options that you have for if you were to have the top navigation placed below the header. And let me just go ahead and click on the left margin and scroll back to the top, and you'll see how it includes a blank space here. That blank space happens to be the same width as the left-hand navigation. And so you can see how you could piece that in if you chose to have that as a layout option. I'm going to turn that off. The next option here is transparent. What transparent will do is literally remove the background color and bleed through to the background image of the site. I'm going to turn that off as well. Next, we have a setting for background image for behind your links within the navigation bar. So I'm going to go ahead and select an image. And then I'm going to go ahead and adjust this image slightly. In this case, I've chosen the same image as what I have for the background of the page. And I'm going to change the orientation of it. Rotate it around so that I've got this red color up here at the top. I think I'm also going to crop it so it's not quite that red. And then I can take a look and preview what it looks like by saving. And it looks pretty nice as a background, but I find the links a little bit difficult to read. So let's jump back down and go to the link color setting. And I'm going to change that from black to white. And take another look. And that looks pretty good. So let me go back down to that section. Let me just say that we have all the same settings that I had covered in a previous video. And I'm not going to go over each of those in detail here other than to know that you're able to make those changes, and the selection that you make will likely depend on the image that you're using for that background image. Next, we're going to move down to the drop shadow section. The drop shadow is currently set to off, and I'm going to go ahead and turn that on now, and then I'll scroll back to the top. And you can see that that simply added the drop shadow beneath the top navigation. And if I go back here and I'll turn that off again, you can see that the drop shadow has been removed. Once again, you have the ability to change the drop shadow colors as well as the drop shadow size, as previously covered in another video. I'm going to go ahead and remove the drop shadow right now and move down to the border section. In the border section, we're once again talking about the line or the space that is directly beneath the top navigation. So to illustrate that, I'm going to change this to a size 20, and it's currently set to white. And when I scroll back to the top, you'll see that the space directly below the top navigation and above the header image is the space that I'm controlling with this set of controls. Let me move back down. In this case, I'm going to simply set that back to 1. And I can also show you, if I turn that off and go back to the top, you can make that disappear as well if you don't desire having that line there. But I like that line, so I'm going to leave that on and move down to the next section. In the last section here, called drop-down menu, we have two settings. One that says use same settings as parent, and the second that says customize drop-down menu. To illustrate this, I need to create a drop-down menu item, so I'm going to go to Edit Site Pages, and I'm going to choose a page. For example, What's New? I'm going to click and drag it into the right and drop it. And that creates a drop-down child navigation of the parent navigation item called Homepage. If I roll over, you'll see the effect. Now, when I go back to the Edit Template page, click on Top Navigation and scroll to the bottom, I can customize this by going to the Customize drop-down menu options. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to change this to a color that was a little bit more of a fall color here. Let's go with one of these deep orange or almost red colors. And now when I scroll back to the top, you'll see when I hover over the color that it produced. And again, you have the ability now to change the color of the link as well if you wish. So I'm just going to set this back to the default setting, which is use the same settings as the parent. And we can move on to the left navigation. So let me click on left navigation and move back to the top here. And the first section of settings is called placement. We have three options. We have floating left, attached left, and hide. So let me kind of bring that left-hand navigation into view. And I'm going to click now on attached left. And you'll see it actually fills out the page and attaches to the left border color of that white line. And in some instances, you may not even have a left-hand navigation at all. So I'm going to hide it, and you'll see that the design appearance page fills out and completely removes the left-hand navigation. Let me go ahead and go back to the floating left navigation, and we can move down to the second section called links. In the first section under links, we have what's called top padding. Let me bring the side navigation into focus and then adjust the top padding. I'm just going to make it a lot larger here. And you'll see what happens is it actually increases the size of the caps at the top and the bottom of that left-hand navigation. The second section is called top margin. What that means is it's controlling the location of where the navigation displays on the page, measuring it from the top margin of the page. So currently it's set to 34, and if I increase that, it's going to push the navigation down the page. I'm going to leave it at 34. And move down. You have the ability to change the link color, which I'm not going to really go into just because it's the same color picker as what we've gone over on previous videos. However, I will discuss the active link color here. It's currently set to white, and if I hover over my links, you'll see that that changes the font color up here to white. And just as you would expect, using the color picker, you can change that to any color you wish. Just going to change this to a blue color for the moment. And if you notice, when I roll over it, it's still white. This is one of the instances where you actually need to save the changes in order to view the changes being made on the screen. So let me refresh the page, and you'll see now that they are blue. Go back down to the left navigation, and I want to change that to white. Continuing on, now we have the last setting in the link section called hide background. And this would be if you don't want to have anything on that left navigation except for links, you'll be prompted with a warning and you can just say OK. And what that is basically doing is telling you that it's going to make sure that the font color can be seen on the white background. So if you had had that set to white links, it would automatically change those white links to a color that could be viewed on the white background. And I'm going to turn that back off. In the next section here, we'll take a look at how we can change the background of this blue section in the cap area. And we can go down to what's called the primary background, and I'm going to select the file. I'm going to upload that. I'm going to use the same leaves file that I've been using. And I'm going to click Adjust. And the last time I did this, I actually had that red color to the top. So this time I'm going to change the orientation and only flip it once. Hit Apply. And now I think I'm going to crop it so that I don't have quite that dark red. Go to about right there, hit Apply, and save. When I scroll back up the screen, you'll see that it's added that leaf pattern as a background. And now you can also make some other adjustments using the background settings here. So for example, if I want to use the cover setting, move back up and see how that changes the look of how that background rests in that area. Repeat and no repeat really don't apply because those are for smaller images that would not be large enough to cover that area. And in this case, I uploaded an image that was fairly large. However, if I go back up to the section up above called Attach Left Navigation and change to that, you're going to see how that pattern now stretches out along the entire left-hand navigation, and eventually you'll see a repeat in that image. Let me change this to repeat there. You'll see how that actually repeats right here. That's actually a flaw in the image that you're seeing there. And I could actually re-upload that, or I should say I could actually crop that off if I wanted to. And now I can play with the other settings. This one is contain. What the contain does is it actually takes that image, the width of it, and compresses it all the way down so that you can see the entire image right here. You see now the repeat here as well as here as it goes down the page. So for what I'm doing though for this design, I'm going to make it go to cover, and I'm also going to go back to the floating left navigation, and I seem to like this setting. The next section is called secondary background. This is the color or the background that would fill in the orange area behind your links. So let me scroll down, and I'm going to go to select a file, and I'm just going to use this one for now so that I can illustrate a few things. And let me just scroll back up to see what we've got so far. So as you see, because this image was a smaller image, it's a repeatable image, and so it's repeating currently to the left and as well as up and down. If I say no repeat, you'll see it just one time up in the upper left-hand corner. Contain, we'll stretch it so that it's half at the top and half at the bottom here. It's kind of splitting the difference there. And cover, we'll actually stretch it further out. So in this situation, it's likely that I would go with the repeat. And of course, you know, I'm not exactly happy with the way that that one looks, but I won't use that for a background in this situation. I kind of like the orange. But it's just important for you to realize that it's an option for you to use. So I'm just going to use this background orange color that I had set earlier. The next two sections are the top and bottom border. This is very similar to the other border settings that we've covered previously, and just to illustrate that, I'm going to leave it white. I'm going to make this, let's just say a size 20, and move this back up. And you can see the white area fill in. Now, one of the differences here is you're able to actually set a background image within there. So let me go into select a file. I'm going to upload that same background image. And let's take a look at how that looks. So you can see that makes a very nice border right here. And I'm going to repeat that under the bottom section. So select a file, background, now in this case I might want to actually reverse the way that that falls in there. So let me go back down to that bottom section, and I'm going to click adjust. I'm going to change the orientation and save. And now I like that effect. The next section we can take a look at here is called navigation lines, and that's the very slim line here that's showing up between the navigational element. So if I scroll down to that section, you can see this by, let me adjust this slightly up to a size 4, and I'll go back up and show you how that changed those lines. See, it made it a thicker line here. Now you can change the color of those lines as well as the transparency setting. So for example, if I click here to reveal the color picker and choose a color, well, let's just go with this red color, you'll see that it's showing up still very lightly here, very transparent. This final number in your settings, the 0.26, is the number that is used to set the opacity. So let's just take a look at where we're at right now. And you'll see how that looks. And I can change that opacity level. Let's just go to, for example, 75. And you'll see that it became quite a bit darker. I think I like the lighter version of that. So I think I'll return to the 0.26. I'm going to make this just a little bit smaller, say for example 2. And I like the color there. It seems to match pretty well. The next setting that I'll cover is for the drop shadow. I can simply come down here and go to where it says Show Drop Shadow and click the checkbox. And it's currently set to a level of 6. Let me move back up and we can take a look at how that affects the page. And this is the drop shadow that I'm speaking of. Again, you can change the hue as well as the depth or the distance of that drop shadow here, and move it a little bit closer, and maybe make it a little bit lighter by making this a 0.25. And let's take a look at how that changed the drop shadow. Again, that's just a setting that you can continue to play with and see how it works with your design. I'm going to turn that off. And the last section, once again, is the drop-down menu. And this is the exact same information that I had covered in the drop menu from the previous section. So that wraps up our video covering the top and left navigations. In our next video, we will cover the sections covered under content and footer.